Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. It is rivalry week, and you know what that means. Take everything that you think you know and forget it. Just go ahead and forget it, because in rivalry week, guys, you throw records out the window. You assume absolutely nothing, because anything can happen. Yeah, sure, anything can happen on any given Saturday, but it especially applies in rivalry week and the season finale for these teams. We have 4 huge ranked versus ranked matchups, guys, and we're going to have individual prediction videos out for those games in the coming days. But today, we're taking a look at the 5 underrated games. 5 underrated games heading into week 13, heading into rivalry week. Games that could impact the college football playoff, games that could impact conference standings, or games that are just going to be pretty dang fun that you need to watch. So let's go ahead and dive on into it. Let's start right up here at the top. Thanksgiving night, the Egg Bowl. The Egg Bowl between Mississippi State and number 20 Ole Miss. Now remember, these rankings are based on the AP poll, not the playoff poll, which at the time of this video have not been released yet. So Mississippi State at number 20 Ole Miss, the Egg Bowl. Only game on Thanksgiving night, college-wise, because you're going to have NFL games. It's the only college football game on Thanksgiving night, and it's going to be fun. I mean, what's not to love about this game? 2 great offenses, 2 very fun and entertaining coaches in Mike Leach and Lane Kiffin. Could this be Lane Kiffin's last regular season game, or potential last game ever at Ole Miss? You know, the rumors are heating up that he might be leaving to go to Auburn. The winner of this game, guys, does finish 3rd in the SEC West, so the standings there, the bowl destination is there. Both teams averaging over 33 points per game. Both teams allowing us a tiny bit over 24 points per game. These teams are pretty even, but ironically, Mississippi State, despite running the air raid, averages 107 yards per game less than Ole Miss. The Bulldogs do average over 320 passing yards per game, but Ole Miss much more balanced, 227 through the air, 278 on the ground. Guys like Zach Evans and Quinshon Judkins leading the way, and Jackson Dart too, having rushed for, I believe, a little over 500 yards. This is a good Ole Miss team, guys. The question is, can the Rebels bounce back after the beating they took against Arkansas last week? They were checked out of that game mentally in Fayetteville. Will they be awake for the Egg Bowl on Thursday night? And I believe that they will. I believe the balanced Ole Miss attack will wear down this Mississippi State defense. One that's, to me, a little bit underrated, but I do think the balanced attack is going to wear them down. The Ole Miss secondary has genuinely, under Lane Kiffin, fared well against the air raid. Keep in mind, Lane Kiffin is 2-0 in the Egg Bowl. He's 2-0 against Mike Leach since he came to Ole Miss. It's the 2 both arrived at their respective schools. I believe Ole Miss extends the streak to 3 over Mississippi State. Ole Miss wins the Egg Bowl in Oxford on Thanksgiving. Baylor at number 24, Texas. Why is this game on here? Well, if Texas wins this game and Kansas State loses, Texas will be in the Big 12 championship. How about that? How about that for important? So Baylor has the opportunity to play spoiler. Baylor can come into Austin, win the game, and say, you know what, it doesn't even matter what Kansas State does. We don't want you there, Texas. We don't even want you to get the chance. Problem is, I don't think Baylor's going to have enough to do that in Austin. You look at both these teams, guys, in Baylor and Texas. Both teams, to me, have been wildly inconsistent. Both, in the grand scheme of things, pretty disappointing. Baylor, the reigning champions of the Big 12, 6-5 this year. Texas, just 7-4. But can Baylor, more than anything, can they bounce back following the heartbreaking loss they suffered at TCU last week? They had a chance to ruin TCU's playoff hopes in Waco on Senior Day, and Baylor blew it, losing that game 29-28. Texas's offense, guys, they came alive last week. 427 rushing yards against Kansas, 55 points against the Jayhawks, kind of taking out their frustration and anger on Kansas after suffering that upset loss last year. On Senior Day for Texas, I believe that the Longhorns are able to execute the exact same game plan they had against Kansas, which was to go in there and try to be balanced, but run first. And I think they're going to be able to do that. I do think they're going to be able to do that. Baylor's run defense, not the best in the world. I believe that Texas will be able to pound the rock with Bijan Robinson. Quinn Ewers delivers. The Longhorns give themselves a chance. Give themselves a chance to get to the Big 12 championship game, as they will anxiously await the result of the Sunflower Showdown, which we'll talk about here shortly. We've got South Carolina at number 7, Clemson. Can South Carolina do it again? Will lightning strike twice? Will Beamer ball bounce back? I don't know. I don't think so. South Carolina shocked the nation last week by taking down number 5 Tennessee. And it wasn't the fact they beat Tennessee, it was the way they did it, beating them 63-38. Can they now take down Clemson, their hated rival, who they've lost 7 straight games to, and ruin Clemson's playoff hopes? Because the Tigers, believe it or not, are likely still alive in this playoff race. Can they do it? Can they end 2 teams' playoff hopes in back-to-back weeks? I just don't think it happens. Clemson's defense, guys, is significantly better than that of Tennessee's, and I just don't think South Carolina's offense is going to have that much success against the Clemson defense, nor do I think the South Carolina team as a whole can replicate exactly what they get against the Volunteers. They played a great game. They did a great job just limiting Hendon Hooker. The offense was firing on all cylinders, and I don't think that's going to happen on Saturday afternoon again. The key number I'm looking at here, Clemson is averaging 184.4 rushing yards per game. They're pretty dang good on the ground, and they need to be with the inconsistency that DJ Uiagalelei provides. South Carolina is giving up 188.4 rushing yards per game. The South Carolina rushing defense is atrocious, and I believe that Clemson's going to be able to pound the rock just like we expect Texas to do. I think Clemson pounds the rock. I think their defense comes through in the end, and with home field advantage, Clemson wins this game. Again, they've won 7 straight against South Carolina. They will make it 8 by the end of Saturday. Clemson will go into the ACC Championship against North Carolina, once again giving themselves a chance to potentially play for the college football playoff. Auburn at number 8, Alabama. Some will say, why is this game on here? Well, look, it's just like Bedlam last week. We talked about Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. That game had no playoff implications. It had no implications on the Big 12 standings, but it kind of feels wrong to not talk about one of the biggest rivalries in all of sports. This is a big game, guys. And last year, I'll tell you this. Did you think that Auburn was going to beat Alabama last year? Did you think they were going to come close to beating Alabama last year? Not many people did. And yet the Tigers nearly pulled off the upset, only lost to Alabama 24-22 in quadruple overtime? Again, rivalry week. Throw it all out the window. You don't know what's going to happen. Auburn is going to give Alabama everything they have for multiple reasons. First off, it's a rivalry game. You want to beat Alabama. This is the Super Bowl. You could be winless, and if you can beat your rival, you're going to be happy. Auburn's also 5-6. You beat Alabama, guess what? You're going bowling. There's a lot to play for here for Auburn. Alabama's certainly playing for pride, but their playoff hopes are gone. 2-loss team. Just don't see any way that Alabama can get in there unless there's absolute chaos, utter chaos ahead of them. I highly doubt we're going to see that. Auburn, guys, is giving up 172 rushing yards per game. Alabama averages nearly 200 rushing yards per game. I expect the Crimson Tide to have a field day in this one, especially with the game being in Tuscaloosa. For some reason, Nick Saban and his squad don't always play well at Jordan-Hare Stadium, but they do pretty dang well at Bryant-Denny in Tuscaloosa. Alabama wins big over Auburn. The Tigers have finished 5-7, and then it's a matter of who will their next head coach be. That's the million-dollar question. Who will it be, and when will it be announced? Finally, guys, Kansas at number 15, Kansas State. Arguably one of the biggest sunflower showdowns we've seen in years. And it has a chance to be one of the more competitive ones we've seen in years. Both teams, guys, have a winning record. Kansas enters this game at 6-5. The Jayhawks are going bowling. Kansas State enters as a top 15 team in the country. And like we mentioned earlier, if Kansas State wins this game, they are going to the Big 12 championship game where they have an opportunity to play spoiler against TCU. So a lot is at stake here. The Wildcats, though, have won 13 straight over Kansas, and only 2 of those 13 have been decided by 1 possession. So it's been a pretty dominant series, but if you look at the state of Kansas football for about the last decade or so, you understand why that has been. I think Kansas is going to give Kansas State everything they have. I think it's going to be a much closer game than people think. But ultimately, guys, the Kansas defense is going to be their undoing. This is still a Kansas defense that, as we mentioned, gave up over 400 rushing yards to Texas. And they're now facing a Kansas State team averaging over 200 rushing yards per game, has one of the best running backs in the country in Deuce Vaughn. They're playing well with Will Howard at quarterback. I just don't think Kansas has enough to come on the road to take down Kansas State at night in Manhattan on senior night with a potential Big 12 title berth at stake. I just don't see any way Kansas State loses this game at home. Expect the Wildcats defense to flex their muscles a little bit, the offense to continue to click, and they ride into the Big 12 championship with a lot of momentum. Obviously not the finish Kansas wants. A 5-0 start turns into a 1-6 finish, but bottom line is what a phenomenal job by Lance Leipold getting this team to the postseason. That's the most important thing. Kansas is going bowling regardless of the outcome of this game. This game way more important for Kansas State than it is for Kansas. The Wildcats will deliver for the home crowd. So there you go, guys. There are your 5 underrated games heading in to Rivalry Week, Week 13. Again, there are 4 huge ranked versus ranked showdowns, such as the game between Michigan and Ohio State. We're going to have that official prediction video out with deeper analysis on that game in the coming days, along with all the other ranked versus ranked matchups. So stay tuned for those. But these are games that you do not want to miss. These are games that have major implications, in multiple ways: playoff races, conference races, bowl bids, everything. Do not miss these games on top of all the others heading into Rivalry Week, which really gets going on Thursday, Thanksgiving night, right here with the Egg Bowl. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country, guys, beating out over 80% of the national analysts and handicappers each of the last 4 years. If you want some guaranteed money and guaranteed winnings right in your pocket, go check it out. Sign up today. Become a part of our GE Nation. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.